Welcome to Good Dog TV, Ask an Expert edition. Now from the American Kennel Club, I'm Marissa Sarback. My co-host today is Milo. Milo is a 5-year-old Pembroke Welsh Corgi who sits very well for treats. Now last month you all had so many great questions for our vet on social media for our Ask the Vet, why does my dog do that? Since the question portion was so popular, we didn't have enough time to answer all of them on the air. So we're bringing some of those unanswered questions to the studio again, and we are extending that episode of Ask the Expert. Now we're not able to answer any new questions until we get through all of these, but we will have our vet expert back on again soon. Now with that, I would like to welcome Dr. Klein. Thank you for joining us again.
My pleasure.
So we're going to start with one of my questions actually first. My first question for you is, my dog will eat any and all food that we put in the bowl. We have to kind of monitor what food we give her. But friends of mine have bowls of food out all the time of dry food, and their dogs just pick and choose as they need it. Why is it that some dogs can be monitored and pace themselves and others can't?
Well, I think there's a saying that some dogs live to eat, other ones eat to live. So that's their own little metabolism and their own behavior. And there's going to be differences within that. That being said, I think a lot of it are eating habits that the owners developed on these dogs. Ideally, I recommend putting food out for a dog and leaving it out for about 20 minutes. And then if they don't eat, taking it up. At that point, if they don't eat, they'll eat usually the next time. I think it develops better habits. As a veterinarian, I like that because if I ask an owner when was the last time he ate or how's his appetite, they can give me better information on that rather than some dogs that just kind of eat all day. That being said, depends how many dogs you have and how busy that feeding bowl can be. You want to make sure they have adequate food during that period of time and always access to water.
All right, so we're going to take our first question from social media. Paulina Miller says, hi, my dog seems to be teething on my stairs. How do I get him to stop so he doesn't get sick?
Well, having puppies that are going through teething, I can completely sympathize. During that period of time, up to about 4 or 5 months of age, they seem to want to chew on everything. And I think, and it always seems to be the things you don't want them to chew on, your shoes or stairs. And that can be a problem. First of all, you have to catch them in the spot. They're not, if you see something that's chewed afterwards, there's no point in reprimanding them because they're not going to remember that. Make sure they have adequate chew toys that you give them and make sure they're directed towards that. If they keep going at an area, you can try to dissuade them by putting a few drops of like hot sauce on a Q-tip on the wood, make sure it doesn't stain the wood. But that hot taste may dissuade them from like chewing on it again. But you have to catch them on the spot and give them alternate things to chew on.
Why would those dogs choose to chew and teeth on stairs or socks or anything like that?
Well, I think it's two things. First of all, it could be the texture that they like, and some of it is also the smell, especially on shoes and things like that. I think certain toys some dogs will go to and some dogs will ignore. It seems to me sometimes the more expensive chew toys they don't like. They go for the gallon water jugs that you can give them or things like that. But they always seem to like the one pair of shoes that you don't want them to get to. So put your shoes away. Yeah.
Good advice there. Okay, next question from Diane Rodman Collins. How can I get my 1-year-old Doberman to stop chewing his nails?
Well, some of it can be a medical problem. And first of all, make sure the nails are trimmed properly and ask your vet to show you how to do it or have your vet look at them. Sometimes there could be medical reasons why they chew their feet or their tails. It could be allergies or even infections, like a fungal infection. If the nails are brittle or crackly, that may be the reason. Make sure there's not a medical reason, so talk to your vet and have them look it over. Sometimes you can do like a bitter apple on their nails if it becomes that kind of a problem. But you want to make sure there's not an underlying medical problem first. If they start going at it as a habit, it can become some kind of compulsive behavior, so that can be a problem. So your veterinarian should be able to work with you to make sure that it doesn't become that kind of a condition.
But you never know, it could be a health concern, so
absolutely. I mean, it's not uncommon to have skin issues like allergies or even fungal infections manifest itself by chewing at their feet or licking at their feet or nails.
All right, great. And so Nancy Simmons is asking, I give my dogs coconut oil when they get a cough. It works for them, but is it safe?
Well, a couple of things. Dogs don't just cough periodically. I mean, if it's just like a little hacking, it's not an issue. If dogs are coughing on a regular basis a couple times a day, it's a medical problem. And you should consult with your veterinarian. It could be something contagious, like anything like a trachobronchitis or kennel cough, or even possibly at the start of a flu. So don't take it so cavalier. They should separate them from other dogs to make sure that you don't have something that is contagious. That being said, coconut oil is used for a lot of things, and it can be safe. However, it's fatty. It can cause dogs that are maybe diabetic, things like pancreatitis, and high in calories. So talk to your veterinarian again about that. But if your dog is coughing, there might be a medical reason, so don't try to always assume that the coconut oil will take care of it.
Might be masking the problem.
Yeah, I mean, dogs don't just cough periodically for no reason. If they're coughing, may be a reason. So call your vet. Especially if they're acting sick or can't breathe properly, something like a heart disease or something, they're coughing, don't give them coconut oil. Have them checked out.
And so I'm going to have another question myself, actually. My dog loves to lick people. Why is that?
I think certain people have certain scents that they gravitate towards. Some of it can be the way they smell or taste. Sometimes it can be underlying anxiety or behavioral issues from the past, and they become I think, insecure, and they attach to a certain person. And I think it's their way of showing affection or some kind of attachment to that person. And I think we don't always know a dog's baggage, so to speak. But if a little bit is fine, but if it becomes annoying, then I think you have to stop the behavior. Also, we should mention we have should be caring about dogs licking babies' faces. We don't recommend it because it's not very hygienic. There's a lot of germs, bacteria in a dog's mouth, and we have to be very careful with infants. So we don't want to encourage that.
And people probably think it's cute and they let that behavior go on.
It's cute to a degree, but I mean, you don't know if a dog has parasites or other problems. We don't want to harm any infants or children. Always practice good hygiene.
Makes sense. Michael Roble is wondering, he says, my dog cries and whimpers in his sleep almost every night, but it really doesn't seem like a dream every time. Could he be in pain? He only cries when he's sleeping.
I don't think his dog is in pain. I don't think, if the dog was in pain, he'd be in pain when he's awake. I know when I'm hurting with my back, it's especially painful when I'm awake. So I don't think he has to fear that his dog is in pain only when he's asleep. If it's a young dog, it probably is dreaming, and it's manifesting itself with these vocal kind of sounds. Probably when the dog wakes up, it's not an issue. Sometimes those kind of behaviors can be almost seizure-like episodes. But the difference there is, in a dog, when you can wake a dog up when they're having like a dream. When it's a seizure, it's uncontrolled. However, that old saying, let sleeping dogs lie, be careful of trying to wake a dog up, because especially like children or nerving, they can kind of become anxious, and they can sometimes bite. So if you're not sure if they're sleeping or not, make a loud noise someplace else, see if a dog responds. If it responds, it was probably just sleeping and dreaming.
Because probably if you get too close to them and touch them and wake them up, you're probably scaring
You startle them.
Yeah.
You startle them, and they're going to react. They're animals, after all. They don't know, especially if they were dreaming in something, and they're going to respond. So we don't want to have any kind of disasters.
All right, Tina was wondering, Tina Bordurant, why does my 2-year-old Great Dane wake several times during the night for no reason? Kind of going with that sleeping theme here.
Well, I think she doesn't think there's a reason. There probably is a reason in the dog's mind. And we have to, first of all, rule out that there's a medical problem, such as a urinary tract infection. If the dog has to go out and urinate more frequently, we have to make sure that dog doesn't have an infection that's causing it to want to urinate. If the dog has to defecate more, there could be other medical problems. We have to make sure there's not a medical problem. So talk to your vet. That being said, you have to form good habits. And whatever it is, be consistent. Once we know the dog is not suffering from any medical issues, you have to kind of put your foot down. You can't let him go out. At 2 years of age, the dog should have a certain amount of control. And if you constantly respond to those kind of actions, the dog's going to continue to do so. So I think you have to develop a certain kind of like rules and actions, but always make sure the dog isn't having any kind of medical problems first.
And Bonnie Powelek is wondering, why does our lab hate the ocean, and why does he go to the bathroom, then run inside and bark until we can clean it up?
Wow, that's an interesting question, and I'm not sure I know the answer completely. You like to think that certain breeds have an affinity for what they were bred to do, and Labradors were meant to retrieve in the water. But I don't think every dog has to be exactly the same. And we don't know if this dog had an unfavorable experience some point in the past of being in the ocean. I mean, it can happen. It can happen to people, it can happen to animals, and some are more sensitive than others. So we have to understand what may have gotten it to that point and maybe start differently. Maybe go to an area that's not a lot of waves, or maybe an area that's not salty. Maybe this dog may never be that dog that they thought it was going to be, but you can kind of work with it and be patient, and maybe work with a behavioral specialist as to why the dog runs in after it defecates. I mean, the dog may have some kind of like cleanliness kind of like thing, and it's probably not a bad thing. Worse things have been known to happen. But I'm not sure I have the complete answer for that one.
Some dogs just have their quirks, I guess.
You know what? Yeah, if he doesn't want to go swimming in the ocean, it's his loss. But you have to be sympathetic to it. You don't want to mommy him too much, but you don't want to like push him and be, forcing him either.
And I think that goes off of what you were saying earlier. In you don't know where this dog necessarily
Right,
what happened before you owned it.
Something must have happened to get that dog to not want to do it. This person just doesn't know at this point in time. You have to try to figure that out and work around it.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a guess.
Milo's joining us on the couch. All right. Roberta Cremaldi is wondering, my 18-month-old cocker goes crazy when walking another dog and another dog appears. Is there a way to stop this?
Well, when you say crazy, there's two ways the dogs can become crazy. They can become, they want to play and they're like go crazy out of control, or they can become aggressive barking. And there's two different reasons. But often that's based on either frustration or fear. Dogs are territorial. When they're on a leash, just like if they're in a car or behind a fence, they feel territorial. And they're a little frustrated because when they're on a leash, they can't get away from that other dog. So they have to assert their dominance or their territory. Other dogs, if they don't have enough exposure with other dogs, want to play and they feel restricted on that. So I think that you have to figure out what type of behavior that craziness is. If a dog becomes aggressive, then you have to always be alert, one step ahead of the dog. Don't be on your phone when you're walking your dog. Be alert of your surroundings. If you see a dog coming, then go the other way if possible. And then get a distance until your dog, you learn what that is. And slowly and be patient and try to work with the dog. And then, control it. And then make sure you give it some kind of positive reinforcement when it acts properly, just like you're doing right now with Milo.
We just want him to sit and enjoy the questions.
And I think that you have to be patient. There's a distance when a dog is going to start showing different activity. And you have to figure out what that is and then slowly make that distance smaller and smaller.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. All right, Pansy Parker has a different kind of question. Why does my Chihuahua's breath smell like fish? She is clarifying it's not his teeth.
A dog's breath can be indicative of other health issues. We do know certain diabetics can have an almost alcohol-like breath, and it can also be indicative of gastrointestinal health and even kidney disease. So first things first, have your dog checked by your veterinarian. There might be an underlying health issue that needs to be checked out. If that's not the case, there are some chew toys and all that have like parsley and chlorophyll, which may help the breath. But first, we're going to make sure there's not an underlying health issue.
Okay. And Sandra Griffin is wondering, why does my German Shepherd have small red spots on his tongue? That might go along the same lines as your last
I'm
answer.
assuming this is a younger dog. The most common red spots we're going to see are going to be like what we call papillomas or warts. And those are caused by a virus. They're contagious from dog to dog. People don't catch them, and cats don't catch them. We see them oftentimes in dogs that go to dog parks or daycare, especially puppies that kind of go around each other. Eventually, they develop a certain amount of immunity. These look like little, almost like small cauliflower or sea anemone kind of growths. They come in clusters around the tongue, the gums, and usually they go away on their own. They don't require any kind of treatment. Sometimes it becomes excessive. They have to be cut out with either a laser or cryotherapy. But I'm assuming that's what she's talking about.
So this could be something that could pose a health concern that we really...
It usually does. I mean, it should be checked out by a veterinarian. If you're not sure what it is, have your vet check it out. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Right. That's definitely a good theme for everybody.
Yeah,
better to be safe than sorry.
Always. That's what vets are there for. We can't always understand everything, and they're there to help us out.
Gotcha. Well, James Ellison says, I have a GSD that likes to get aggressive with people who are leaving my house. What the heck is that about?
It's a funny question because my first dog was a wire fox terrier, did the same thing, and he would bite people on the way out. And at first it's funny, but then it can be concerning because it could be a liability issue. If a person gets bit by a dog, you can get sued if it's in your own home or property. They're usually these dogs that are very anxious or they're very territorial. And you have to be very aware of that and not allow that to happen. Behavior modification, obedience training, but always make sure that a guest is informed of that and make sure your dog is separated. You can't ever risk the possibility of a guest or a child being bitten. That being said, that would be a good case in point to talk to a board-certified veterinary behavioral specialist to try to figure out a way to get that to get better. It's a combination of obedience training and positive reinforcement, but never at the risk of a third party.
And I think that's just a great point, is that some things may seem cute or interesting at first, and then, you know, they really turn into a serious problem because you let it go on for a while.
Many things may start out cute, but when it becomes something that's concerning, or whenever either it puts the dog in danger or somebody else, then it's something that has to be taken much more seriously.
All right. I'm going to give you another question, a personal question here.
Okay.
My dog, she has such a serious reaction to being inside cars. She starts panting, starts drooling. She really can't. She is very anxious. And I feel bad taking her places because I want to bring her with me, but she just looks miserable. Is there anything I can do to get her over her aversion to cars?
Well, it's a great question, and I think it's a fairly common question, and some dogs get car sickness much more than others. I found certain bloodlines, even within a breed, react in a certain way. And I had that happen once with a friend's dogs of a certain breed, and my dogs luckily don't have it. But you have to get them used to it, and I think you have to be very patient. And there's medication that can be given from your veterinarian to ease nausea and vomiting. And then what you need to do is get your dog in the car, and don't start the car. Just keep your dog in the car for a few minutes, and then let him go out. And then eventually, just, do it for maybe several times a week. And then just start the car, but don't go anywhere. And then just go in small areas. I find most dogs get motion sickness in the beginning of a ride when there's a lot of twists and stops and turns. Once you go on like an expressway and it evens out, they usually kind of calm down. But you have to get them used to that first 15 minutes and get them used to being in a stationary car with the motor not even running. And then give them positive reinforcements and work with your veterinarian to give them medication to help the nausea.
Probably positive reinforcement is something everybody can do, and they don't realize it. But
positive reinforcement and patience. I think in this day and age, we want a quick fix to everything, and dogs can't always do that. We have to be patient and figure out the way they're thinking and try to work with them and kind of try to outsmart them, but not really outsmart them, learn their language and try to speak to them in a different language.
Patty Hare is wondering, what is a good indication that your dog has hip dysplasia?
Well, the only way to know for sure that a dog has hip dysplasia is with x-rays. Hip dysplasia is when the hip socket doesn't fit neatly into the hip joint. A dog can show limping or lameness, difficulty getting up, or stairs, or getting up from a lying position. It basically causes early arthritis. If you have any concerns that your dog may show signs of any of those, talk to your veterinarian. And then many times an x-ray is indicated if they're showing problems on that.
Okay. It looks like we have time for one more question, and Gwen Dixon has this one. Why does our 18-month-old Boston Terrier pee on me when he hasn't seen me in a few hours? He doesn't do this with my husband. We have to do a pass-off so that I don't get peed on.
Well, that's a great question and an annoying question. And there's two kinds of urination that dogs can do. They can do kind of territorial urinations when a male dog lifts his leg on something, or they can do submissive urination when they go on their belly and they kind of start urinating. So some of it is your husband maybe has a sense of respect on that dog, and you have to develop a certain respect. Your dog has to develop respect for you as well. So kind of obedience training, and also as soon as you get home, ignore the dog and then have him go outside right away. So divert the attention.
Great answer. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Klein. I think you've answered a lot of questions for us.
That was
here
a lot
today.
of questions.
Yes.
They were good ones, too.
Yes, thank you so much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Thank you.
All right. I'm Marissa Sarback. Thank you so much for joining me and Dr. Klein today. And thank you to my co-host, Milo, who's been very good. Be sure to download AKC TV on Roku and Apple TV. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. AKC TV, it's Good Dog TV. Now, we leave you with our Good Dog Moment of the Week, brought to you by Milo, who has his own Instagram page, if you'd like to follow him. It is Putting Stuff on Milo. Send us your Good Dog Moment to akc.tv/submit. Sit. Good boy. Paw. Paw. Good boy. High five. High five. He even jumps up to give high five. Can you lay down? Lay down, Milo. Roll over.
Oh.
Aw, that's been down. Roll over. Roll over. Good boy. Good boy, Milo.
Good boy, Milo.
Turn around. You're so good, Milo. You're so smart. Good job. Can I have another high five? Kiss. 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 Good boy.